Hey everyone, I'm Dan, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the Dawn of Pirates DLC for Port Royale 3. Now, if you're looking for a review of the core Port Royale game itself, be sure to check out my YouTube channel because I've done a separate video for that entirely. This one is only going to be about the Dawn of Pirates DLC, however, I might touch on how things are different from the core game. So let's start off by jumping right into the options here. This is just a DLC pack, so as you can see right away, our options are just as limited as they were before. I can't think of anything new that's been added, and we still have the very limited sliders in terms of texture quality. Now, the Pirates Life campaign is the new mode that's been added to the game, and this does not actually carry over into free play. So if you want to enjoy the new Pirates Life content, you do have to start a new campaign, and you'll have to kind of go through the steps involved with the campaign until you're essentially free at the end to play however you'd like. So let's just jump in here and make a new campaign. There we go, that looks very pirate-like. We'll start up. Now, the game itself has changed quite a bit. We no longer have any trade or business development aspects to the game. Those have been completely stripped out, and instead you are solely doing combat and piracy now, which, I mean, makes sense really when you consider that you're playing as a pirate. The map itself is still the same. The nations that you're playing with are still the same. However, you can see up at the top, instead of having our reputation listed there, we actually have various sliders so we can see how we're doing in relation to other pirates themselves. We also have our hideout right here located on the map. And as far as I'm aware, this hideout location never changes. I've started quite a few new games, and they have all started with the hideout in the exact same spot. So let's just jump into our hideout here and see how we've started. Alright, so this is our first pirate convoy here, the Hyperion. We'll just go ahead and load him up with as many guys and swords, guns, everything that we can get on there. And let's hit the high seas and get down to some of this combat. Okay. Now, the combat is still the same as the core Port Royale 3 game. You still have options between automated and manual combat, and I can say that the strategies that worked for manual combat in the core game still work now. Whether you enjoyed those strategies or not is, your decision to make. I'm going to be sticking to automated combat for the sake of the review today. So here we have our first fleet that we're going to attack, and we can see that it's not the most outmatched fight ever. We do have roughly double the number of guys and guns, however, so there's a very good chance that we're going to win this quite easily. Now you can see here over to the side, as our ship is getting beat up a little bit in this fight, we do have an automated piracy mode that can be activated. This is a new feature and actually replaces the automated trade routes that the core game itself offered. Now, using the automated piracy mode too frequently will result in your ships actually getting killed. The AI, for whatever reason, either doesn't like to repair frequently enough or takes on ships that are drastically more powerful and will essentially suicide itself on a fairly regular basis. Thankfully, we're a bit smarter than that, and we were successfully able to loot some sugar and tools from this ship here, which should be good for selling back at our pirate hideout. Now, let's see if we can quickly jump into another battle here. That ship was a little bit faster than ours. So let's just go back to the hideout and I can show you how trade has changed. You might have remembered that earlier I mentioned trade was basically out of the game, and that is true. You're no longer trading resources anywhere. However, you can come back to your pirate hideout now and simply unload the goods that you've plundered. The benefit of doing this is that your buddies back at the pirate hideout will automatically sell the goods for you, so you no longer have to worry about the highs and lows of the market. You simply just want to steal as many goods as possible, bring them back to your pirate hideout where they'll be flogged off into the open market as, stuff that fell off the back of a ship. Now, let's go back out to sea and try and get a few more resources here. Now, the game has changed quite a bit. You're no longer trying to earn reputation with other friendly nations. However, you are trying to earn reputation among other pirates. And having a high reputation will make your game play out much better because you'll be able to actually recruit far more crew members. Losing crew members in this game is much more of a big deal than it was in the core game. The reason for that is that in the core game, you had lots and lots of towns and villages that you could go to. You could recruit guys. If you had been a trader for a long time at the start of the game, odds are you could fill up your ships pretty easily with crew. And unless you have a very high respect in this game, that is simply no longer the case. The game requires that respect in order for you to actually have people that want to get on your boat. All right, so we've had a couple successful battles here. We got some sugar, we got some hemp, we got some tools. We'll go back to our boat here. You could see on the earlier battle as well that we actually gained some respect, and in comparison to other pirates in the game, we are doing quite well right now. We got that notorious trend aspect on our respect meter there. A lot of that came from the fact that we attacked a naval ship from Spain, and that earned us quite a bit of respect with other pirates in the area. All right, so we'll just go and restock our boat, sell off our goods. You can see the sugar that we had earlier has already been sold. We've already been awarded the money for that. And let's see, we can even buy a new boat possibly. Yeah, sure, let's buy a pirate bark. That looks helpful. Okay, so we'll just add him to our convoy here, and we're back out to sea. Now, in a nutshell, this is really the whole DLC game. This is what you're going to be doing for the most part. The goal is to get additional convoys, max them out with a bunch of ships, and have a couple probably running on automated gameplay in just an attempt to scavenge up and plunder as much loot as possible and earn as much respect as possible. Like I mentioned, you're really going to be building towards a scenario where you have a couple ships or a couple convoys that are using automated piracy. However, you're going to want to manually intervene with them as often as possible just to ensure that they're not dying. Once you get into a downward spiral of having more people die than you can actually recruit, you'll eventually just run out of any ability to earn money whatsoever, and that's not a good place to be. So let's just attack another ship here, get a little bit more respect. This was a military ship, actually. So let's see how we do. He was a pretty weak military ship. He might have been actually been beaten up on already by another boat, but that doesn't mean we can't hit him again. All right, great. Let's go back to the hideout here. So overall thoughts about the DLC, you know, I do really actually enjoy it quite a bit. I've played a lot of the DLC package, and I found that sometimes when I get that craving to play a little bit of Port Royale 3, it really is a toss-up between whether I feel like playing the Pirates DLC or the core original game. Also, as I mentioned earlier, I only paid a couple bucks for this DLC, which really is kind of what I'm looking for in a DLC these days. I really hate the big expensive DLC packs. SimCity players, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They have just crippled that game with DLC at this point, and it is just not fun to constantly fork out 10, 15 bucks every couple months. Now, you know, for a couple bucks that came out 6 months after the core game, I think Calypso has really done things right here. This is a DLC that's very accessible, adds a nice different way of playing the game, while at the same time not destroying those Port Royale mechanics that you really enjoyed or affecting the pretty scenes, you know, that the game does provide you with. Some of these nice coastal shots, for example, are some of my favorite to look at in the game itself. You know, if you liked the core Port Royale 3 game and you can get this on sale, you're definitely not going to regret it. I would highly recommend picking it up. But if you didn't enjoy the core Port Royale 3, I really don't think this DLC is going to be enough to actually change your opinion of it or get you to go out and make that purchase. This is still Port Royale 3 with just a much larger emphasis on combat. As a result, getting good at manual combat is slightly more effective because, again, you can always use that strategy of running your enemies ashore and just quickly rack up tons of goods, plunder the seas like mad, and just make a real killing out there. So anyways, until next time, guys, I've been Dan. Thank you so much for watching my video. Come back next time, and hopefully there'll be more here for you. See you next time.